Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is September 23, 2022. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here today with Margaux Vranken. Is that the correct way to pronounce it, Margaux?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's an honor. Where are you calling in from?
Los Angeles, California.
How cool is that? So the first question is what is the best thing for a human being?
Connection.
Ooh, I love that word. That's a great C word. What's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
When people tell me the stories, when people tell me stories,
Yeah. Tell you stories. So you're implying it's auditory or anyway.
I think auditory. That's the
Yeah.
best way for me to get information.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, we'll get into storytelling. That's amazing. Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
To comprehend and approach the world in a better way.
Yeah. And do you think this need or want is more innate in humans or more invented? This need or want to collect information.
I think it's in us. I think it's in us.
It's in
Yes.
us innate.
Yes.
Yeah. Is thinking more innate or more invented?
It's definitely in us too.
Yeah.
It's something we all do. You got to do some thinking.
You don't have a choice. Do thoughts create emotions?
Yes, and thoughts create reality. That's what my father always told me, and I think he's pretty right. So it all starts with a thought, and then it just can create a world, create reality, and this is why we get to experience all these amazing things that surround us. It's just because people at some point had great ideas and they turned them into action.
Yeah. That's a wise dad you got there. So fill in the blank, Margaux. I don't know what I think until I
Go through it, experience it.
yeah. Can humans think without language?
Yes, I think so. Think in emotions, think in feelings, think in, I mean, only seeing things like you take a hike or you travel a little bit. I don't think you need words.
Yeah. Well, Chomsky says a language is not just words, it's a community, a culture, a tradition, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work, when language breaks down?
I mean, we have this amazing chance as musicians to be able to communicate with sounds, and it's a language in itself, but we don't need verbs, words, and we don't need to put a phrase together. So when it breaks out, I try to communicate with gestures or, I mean, when you travel someplace else, you just need to figure something out.
Yeah.
Um, and I have this great opportunity to just live somewhere else than where I was born. And so sometimes I just need to figure things out because English is still not my first language. And it's funny. I think it's a very inspiring thing to be confronted to your limits, to your limitations.
Yes. Boy, we're going to get into all this. That was really good. So, your experience with humans in general, it's a stupid question, but as you observe humans, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
I think it's a mix between everything. And I mean, industrial revolution and all these things, all these amazing inventions that were brought to us, allowed us to go more into the thinking because we just constantly evolve. But when we had those limitations millions of years ago, we had more limitations than today. And I don't know, maybe it was more intuitive because we had less filters. Everything is so organized nowadays. Everything is organized. The well-being industry is huge, you know?
Well-being industry, that's good. But
It's a
we all
business.
you said it earlier, we wanna make the world a better place, so well-being has good intentions in saying, "I'm in the well-being industry." Well, what does that mean? I'm trying to make the world a better place, but yeah, that's amazing how much we've invented that and we think it's made the world better, but maybe it hasn't. It's complicated things, so it's yeah, and we can't I think y you might go along with this. You can't separate feeling from thinking, but we think we can because we invented the words feeling and we invented the words thinking. So we think we can separate them, but probably they're like this.
I think they're together. I think they're connected. And
Yeah,
I was lucky enough to be raised by people that thought that feelings were important and expressing them was very important and actually verbalize them because that's an art.
yeah,
Verbalize how you feel and
yeah,
figure it out. Some people think they're sad, but they're actually angry, or the other way around. I think it's very important to just point how you feel and to just go with it and to just try to do something about it. I was very lucky to be raised by people who thought it was very important.
yeah. I love people who credit their parents. I love that. And so, yeah, because we were taking care of our niece once, and after 5 days, we realized every time she said she was bored, she meant she was hungry, but
Wow.
she couldn't for some reason, she couldn't say, "I'm hungry."
I
And
see.
so we finally deciphered, you know?
That's amazing. And talking about boredom for me is everything. Boredom is important.
Yeah, that's really good. We'll get it is everything, yeah, because
If you
the
have the luxury to be bored, your mind can go places, and that's beautiful.
yeah, oh, yeah, it's, the, Aborigines in Australia have no word for boredom, but they probably get into that headspace, but they don't call it boredom because in the West, we think boredom is bad, and like you just said, no, that's like freeing your mind or we call it, daydreaming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
George Carlin, the comedian, said, "Whatever happened to letting kids stare out the window?"
Yeah. Oh my God. This is such a blessing. It's just screens are everywhere. And I mean, I don't know. It's just sucking your energy up. I don't know. It's pretty bad. It's pretty
Yeah.
bad. That's
So
the challenge for the new generations, definitely.
that's it. Challenge, I love that. So, these are 2 questions from Alan Turing, 1950s. Is thinking a function of the soul?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Definitely. I agree with that.
Can machines think?
Yes, we are on our way to AI, and I mean, we are in it, and I think they can definitely feel things too. There's going to be some really interesting ethical questions being raised very soon with the AI.
Yeah. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Meaning. Otherwise, yeah, meaning. I'm going to stick to my intuition, meaning.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answers, but that one you got right.
you
Well,
know.
it's funny because I actually spoke with the guy who wrote songs with the Beach Boys, and he's really wise, and he said, "Well, meaning is last. That's why
Hmm.
I got it from Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. Li It can last longer. Happiness doesn't necessarily last, but he said the word happiness might replace with joy. He pursues joy,
I
which
see.
then I started thinking, does joy last?
No, for me, joy is temporary.
It's temporary, so it's interesting what people aspire to. Yeah. So, Margot, this is fun. I really appreciate it. So, does the brain more detect consciousness or create consciousness? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're detecting it, or are we actually creating it?
We're creating everything. We all live in our little box and we all perceive things in a different way. And that what makes everything complicated between human beings.
Our little Zoom boxes, but
Yes,
this is pretty cool about screens that we can connect in this little box. It,
exactly.
I've found my events, I've done them for 40 years, live people in a room. And
Hmm.
since COVID forced me to go Zoom, my events are better because people are more attentive and they're more visually centered. And it's interesting because if we're in a room together, our eyes would be wandering, but for some reason we feel that our sort of center of attention is at the screen, like you were talking about screens, because there's eyes there.
True. Very true. Very true.
What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Speed of light. We're not that smart.
There's a poet, Audre Lorde, she said, "You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools." Yvonne Rainer responded, said, "You can if you expose the tools." What new tool do you suggest?
A new tool. Collectiveness. Togetherness.
Yeah. Isn't that great? I love when people realize that the word new is not the dominant, that the word tool.
Tool.
And then
Yes.
how many people think togetherness is a tool? That's like the essence of all tools, right?
Exactly. Yes.
You know, Jean Rouch, the French uh, film documentarian and theorist, he says, if I put a camera between me and you,
Hmm.
it's more real than if there's no camera. Now that sounds backwards because you think it's like this interventive thing. But if you think of the camera as possibly being like an extension of your humanness. So we're going to get into that. So, what new toy do you suggest?
Toy. That's a great question. A toy. Oh my God, we have so many toys right now. So it's hard to think about something new. Um, I guess they're working on a toy to go on Mars,
That's
but I
good.
don't. But I don't think. I don't know if we need it. I don't know if we need it.
I like that. No, it's because I'm always juggling the questions with the people I talk to. So someone said, I don't know what tool what toys to suggest. Then it made me add, what new toy do you suggest? What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
The future of humanity.
Wow.
For real, I don't really think about my little person. I mean, I do. I hope everyone I love is healthy and safe.
Yeah.
But we are at a point in history of just wow. I mean, there's just no words. This is why I'm talking about togetherness. It's going to
Yeah.
require massive effort from everyone, and especially from the people who actually own everything. I cannot really do much. I mean, I can, but
Yeah.
like those trillionaires hanging out in the
Yeah.
sky. These are the guys I'm talking about.
Yep. And that guy got press in the last 2 weeks who runs Patagonia. He's like a billionaire who's putting his money to save Mother Nature. It's like,
Oh, yes. By the way, this is a very interesting topic. I admire that, but I knew it. This is an amazing, very clever marketing campaign. And
yeah,
guess what? My sister, right after the announcement, she bought a few clothes from them.
wow.
So this is, check it out. So I think it's amazing, and I think it's very like generous, and I think it's wonderful. But
Yeah,
first, we don't know what they did with the money they own. Maybe they put it in the trust fund just right before the announcement.
yeah,
Two, they knew people would feel good about themselves, and this is why I'm talking about well-being industry. People are going to feel good about themselves buying Patagonia clothes. So for
yeah,
me, this is just one of the most clever campaigns in the world right now as we speak. So they're going to use this, oh my
yeah,
god, the humanity is on the way of, and then it's going to push people. I mean, I knew it. One of my family members,
yeah,
like, she was like, oh my god, it's amazing, so she bought the clothes. So it's a big success. Congratulations.
yeah. You're a deeper thinker. See, then there's people who think on the surface, which is fine, and then there's some people who, like we call it, read between the lines or go a little deeper, which leads into perfectly to this question, Margaux. And that Marshall McLuhan learned from the poet Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. And, by artists, I mean musicians, painters, poets. And as antenna of the race, they're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions. Just like you noticed there was a hidden psychic effect of this campaign. And what McLuhan learned was this question, which he probed. And I ask you, why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Laziness.
Yeah.
I sound harsh. And by the way, coming back to the Patagonia thing, I think it's just wonderful, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's very important not to be naive.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, we live in a very, like, we're just
Yeah.
walking on eggs, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Naivety is great. Laziness is great. You're bringing up a lot of words. Do artists have moral obligation?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's too much pressure.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Sometimes art is art, music is music, and it's okay.
Yeah. I agree. It's amazing. 80% of people say everybody has a moral obligation, but there's art that's supposed to make you think and really challenge you. And if they have moral obligations, it's like, that's going to get in the way. But are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Old ideas,
Yeah.
definitely. And this is why we're going backwards in so many ways.
Yeah.
We got to keep the faith up, the hopes up. It's going to be hard, but I believe it. I believe in it.
Beautiful. I love your aspirations. So, can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
My first my parents' first apartment, the kitchen. I think I was about 3, and I remember very well how the house looked like and the space. It's
Yeah.
something blurry, but I think I was about 3 or 4, and when I talk to them, they say, yes, you're right, it looked like that. So
Yeah.
I guess it's
It's
it's engraved in my memory.
it's amazing how when I ask people that question, how many of them are visual
Yes,
memories. So is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
for me, it's a blessing.
Yeah. So tell me, please, within your immediate family, then outside your immediate family, just briefly, someone who had an impact on you, like a role model, and what specifically was that impact?
My mother, but also my father. When I think about it, I'm very, very lucky. Of
Well,
course,
what did you mainly get from your mom and mainly get from your dad?
my mother, she's a rebel, and I admire her for that. She questions everything and everyone, and as much as it can be really tiring and really exhausting, and like, she's never gonna settle. She's never gonna think, okay, this is it. Yes, guys, this is it. You know, she's always she questions everything and everyone, and I'm so thankful for her for that.
Wow.
And she just raised us as people, not as women, and I think that's very important. And I am confronted to this reality of not being raised as a woman, but more like as a human being every single day. It's complicated, but I thank my parents because we just could be whoever we wanted to be,
Yeah.
you know. And my dad, he taught me how to listen to music.
Wow. How to listen.
Exactly.
Gee. What name someone outside your immediate family?
I would say two people. It's when I was very young. I was doing gymnastics at a high level, and my coach was amazing. She pushed me, and I think there's a connection between high level sports and professional, like athletes and musicians. It's
Yeah.
the ability to just push yourself. There's a lot of self discipline, self determination. There's a lot of you just push yourself always and always. You see.
Yes.
And I think it shaped me, and now I'm very neurotic and I have lots of issues. No, it's not true.
That was great. I loved it.
No, but yeah. So my coach, when I was about 8 or 9 years old, and then my first piano teacher, she was from Georgia, the country, and she was so tough. You know, she was so tough. There's no way I could not practice or not be prepared, and I am so grateful for these lessons.
Yeah,
Always be prepared, you know.
that's beautiful. Yeah, we'll get into music soon. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
My culture is Catholic, definitely Christian. No, Catholics. I went to a Catholic school. I went to Catholic. I was a Girl Scout. I was a Girl Scout for 12
Yeah.
years, and it was Catholic. So it's my culture, but it's not my religion.
Do you pray?
Yes, when I'm flying,
Nice.
it's true. It's
That
true.
is good. I
I'm a
like.
nervous flyer. I'm a nervous flyer.
Well, check this one out. My friend told me you don't if you well, it's just something that I've thought about. If you get on an airplane, you go, please, God, don't let the plane crash, that you're putting the crash idea into the universe. If you go, please protect the plane with white light, then it's more positive. So
Yes.
I try to think that, but who knows? If God does exist, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
Very, very good question. And the fact that I need to think tells you how much I care. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's we're just so little things. We're just things and relationships, and maybe you own a house, but what is this? We're
Yeah,
dust. We're dust, and I try to remember this every day. And
yeah,
it's not negative. It's not something depressing. It's just a
yeah,
fact,
yeah,
and in a beautiful way. Like when you fly over the valley, when you arrive in LA,
yeah.
right? You're like, oh my God, I'm just such a tiny little thing in the valley. What does it mean? You know? And this is what I like about living in a huge city.
Yeah,
it put things in perspective, and it's very challenging. But you're not the queen of the street. You're not the queen of the city. You're just someone trying to make something, you
Yeah.
know. So God, if I meet her or him or whatever form they, um, I'd like this person to tell me, you did your best.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's what most people say, and it's a good thing. Um, the way you evoke that coming into LA is it's a great Frank Zappa song called "City of Tiny Lights." It's like, and then, you take Sly Stone, everybody is a star. So it's like, it's such a vastness, but
Exactly.
I guess it's Walt Whitman says, "I contain multitudes." We're all part of one. But okay, now, do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
I don't believe in the notion of hell and heaven. So I don't believe in the notion of evil. But I believe there is people with certain twisted brain connections.
Yeah,
And I feel for them because it must be a lot of suffering.
yeah. It's really good.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know, like when you think about serial killers, for example, because that's quite crazy, right? People who murder, for example. Um, wow. I think people are fascinated by that, and there's so many documentaries and like TV shows about murders and everything because violence is in within us. It's in us. Violence is there, and we fight on a daily basis not to go there, but it's here. It's in us. We feel it. We just have to master it. You know.
Yeah,
And I don't mean I understand, but I mean I observe where it's coming from.
yeah. It's good. It's important to contemplate it. So the follow-up question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I set it up with a few modern thinkers' thoughts. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Hmm.
Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is how do you, Margaux, advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
I think I agree because toxic people, and God knows how many there are, they want you to give them space. They want you to give them, they want you to let them exist. When you talk about them, when you think about them, it gives them space to do more harm. So I'd say not to, my advice would be, it's like a fire, a growing fire. If you blow on the fire, it will grow and grow and grow. So maybe you just leave the fire in the corner. Maybe it will just fade away.
Yeah,
Who knows?
it's good.
So I would say not ignore it, but yes, um, do not engage with this person.
Yeah,
If it's a real enemy, do not engage with this person.
yeah,
And life, and I know I'm very young, showed me many times that people just come back to you with a different mindset.
yeah.
It's crazy, but it's happening.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
happening, you
yeah.
know? People
No,
just sometimes, it's not forgiveness, but it's just, time passes by
yeah,
and people grow and they just realize it's not that important. It's
yeah,
okay, you know?
yeah.
To hate Margaux, is it important? No. you know
No, I got that's David Lee Roth. Here today, gone later today. That's like that's gone, man. But it's also you evoke so much. Sam Goldwyn said, "As for my critics, don't even ignore them."
Yeah.
Because you use the word ignore. And
Yes.
I love you separating engage and ignore, you know.
Exactly. Hmm.
And you're a good listener. You really listen. I appreciate that because this guy Nassim Taleb says an amazing thing. He said, games were created to give non heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, you don't know who really won or lost, but you can tell who a hero is and who is not. So it's an interesting how he differentiates. But the question I ask you is, does punishment work? And when I said that Talib quote to someone, they told me, villains don't think they are bad. They want control. Heroes want freedom. So if we designate someone, like you said, a serial killer or a toxic, a twisted brain connected person, does punishment work?
That's a very interesting topic. If we're talking about prisons in the US, it's one of the most dramatic things that you can ever think of. Um, I mean, does punishment work? To a certain extent, it might, but I would say this: let's try not to go to punishment. Let's try to go to the roots. And wow, here I'm like Disneyland, flowers and peace on earth, right? I'm a little bit too naive in this subject, but I would say like, and we need trillions, we need so much money, we need so much effort from everyone, but education is the key, and not letting people feel unseen,
Yeah,
unprotected, unsafe, unheard.
yeah,
It all starts with all those things, and then you end up taking bad decisions because you don't know any other way. And then I would say education, I mean going to the roots instead of going to punishment, you know.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's amazing. It's pretty simple. Rough trying to reform in a civilized manner, not, you know. But Utah Phillips is a folk singer and an activist, and he said anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people.
Hmm.
Who's entitled to make the rules?
I think we should make rules based on historical events, based on what humanity went through. Second World War was supposed to teach us something, but I see that we're going back to some horrible things that remind me of what started this horrible period of time, you know. So
Yeah,
are we really, you know? So who should make the rules? Who should make the rules? I'm not going to say common sense because it's different for everyone. But I do believe in rules, and I think it's very healthy. And I think the problems of communications between human beings is basically not sharing the same rules, meaning not sharing the same values.
yeah,
We're losing the sense of values, politeness, empathy. I don't know. For me, basic things, because that's what I was taught to do. But I mean, we are in this uber capitalistic world, and
yeah,
I want us to go to the wall and to crash and to reinvent ourselves.
yeah,
Or maybe not to go to the wall, but if you ask young people, and I mean this is reality, this is not something I made up. You ask a bunch of young people in Belgium, in the US, what they want to do, maybe they're going to tell you, because of social media and screens and all of these things, maybe they're going to tell you they want to make money living in Dubai and selling BS on the web, online e-commerce, or whatever you can call it. I mean, they want to become influencers or whatever it is. And this, in this way, I'm losing a little bit of hope and faith, because I really cannot find the system of values there. The system
Yeah,
of value is money,
yeah,
and I don't think it's going anywhere for humanity. It's not going anywhere.
yeah,
And this is, I mean, and there's amazing young people, and we need to focus on them. We need to focus on the ones that want to make something happen.
yeah.
And yes, we are a very interesting generation. We are caught in between things, you know. um but you know, we live in an crazy times nowadays. Crazy times, crazy times.
Wow,
Everybody,
Margaret,
everybody is struggling. Everybody is struggling.
yeah. You really put that well, and now we're gonna shift to music, and I appreciate your music. I've listened to it and been really inspired by it. What was like the tipping point when you heard music and then said, "I wanna do this"? Did your parents just say, "You're gonna take lessons," and that it was more their choice, or you're growing up and you hear something and go, "I wanna pursue this"?
We had a piano at home, and my parents thought it was important to learn music. So it started with that. And then I remember very well the moment I wanted to do music as much as I could. I was part of the youth choir of the Royal Opera House of Brussels, Belgium. And we would be on stage every night, singing, playing, performing. And it was just so much fun. And
Yeah,
it was like this big family. You know, backstage you got the tech people, and then you got the light people, and then you got like the orchestras and the director and the makeup artist. And it was just so much fun, you know. It was just escaping from reality and taking people on a journey and let them dream with
yeah,
you. And I mean, what a beautiful way to spend your life on earth, you know,
yeah.
dreaming.
It is, it's dreaming awake almost.
Exactly.
And so then when did you pick piano? So you first start as a vocalist, then did you pick piano?
No, no, no. I started piano when I was 7.
Oh, you started piano, then you went into
Yes.
choir. Yeah,
Yeah, I went into choir because singing together should be mandatory therapeutic weekly session for
yeah,
everyone on earth.
yeah. That's like choirs in church or
Yes.
hootenanny, like you went to Girl Scouts singing around a
Yes.
campfire.
Oh my
Yeah,
God. This is why I love music so much. These
yeah,
memories,
yeah.
you know,
But then when did you first what's your tipping point with say, "I can write lyrics, I can compose music." Where's the tipping point then?
I wrote my first song when I was 10. It
And
was
that's
called the
lyrics and music?
yes. And
Yeah,
I invited 2 of my friends to play violin on the song, and the song was called The Island of Birds. And then I didn't write anything for 10 years. So I wrote one song when I was 10, and then I went on a musical journey, you know, blues, jazz, classical piano, choir, jazz ensemble. And then I arrived at the Conservatory of Music very motivated because I loved jazz ever since I was like 12. You know, big bands. I was like, oh my God, this is so great, so much energy, you know, in your face, you know. And then I just wanted to learn this music. And then I started writing again when I was 20 years old. And I never really wrote lyrics. I always call my friends to write lyrics on my music. It's funny.
wow, so we're gonna get deeper into that, but a screenwriting teacher told me a great film or great art, great music is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great film, great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play when you're writing a composition?
It is everything. It is 100% the beginning of everything, intention. Or I can call it emotion,
Yeah,
statement. For me, a composition is an emotion clearly organized. So I would go to the number one. It's a good piece of music if you can see clearly what the intention behind is.
yeah. Then, Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your listener when you're composing your piece of music?
I think I actually think about them a lot. Um, I want them to comprehend what I'm conveying. I want them to access the music with words, for example, with lyrics, or with a melody that can just. Um, I'm on a journey as a writer, so I'm going more and more to that direction, writing songs. This is my first love, and then I went on this jazz journey to learn a bunch of different things, and I'm coming back to my first love, and I try to put everything together. So it's a long journey. I'm in the middle of it, or the beginning, maybe. I don't know. Um,
Nice.
you
I
know,
love that journey where so, Copeland says the 4 elements or ingredients of music are melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. How do you navigate those 4? Are you more a melody person? I know, it's a sort of general question, but just specify of the 4 your inclinations towards it, or, how do you integrate all 4 or whatever?
I think I'm more of a melody person because when I think about a piece of music, I think about young girls singing it all together without any instruments. You
Back to
know,
your choir days.
back to my Girl Scouts or choir days. You know,
Amazing.
this is the inspiration. I want young people to sing it all together and to enjoy themselves, and without any instruments or accompaniment. So it has to be very strong, melodically speaking. I
Wow,
guess that's the
that
image.
yeah. And then how do you I've been struggling with that question because I used to just say, "We know what melody, harmony, and rhythm is," but how do you describe what is tone color in layperson's terms?
Tone color for me would be a song, is a song maybe on the piano, just like a vocalist and a pianist, right? It can work like that. It's two instruments, it's the skeleton of the song.
Yeah.
But then if we talk about tone, in modern terms, I would say we're talking about production. And
Oh,
this, you know, and the sonic experience is so important. Why do we love the Beatles so much? Because it's a sonic experience. It's some weird little noise at the beginning, and then it's like reversed guitars, and then there's a string quartet. It's a sonic experience. It's not just let me play your thing, let me play my thing with my guitar. It's
yeah,
something so complete. And but but it also can work with like old blues recordings, just a guy and his guitar. It works too. For some reason it works too. And
yeah,
the sonic experience might be, it's an old recording, it's a very special mic, it's recorded outside, there's people listening to it, and you can hear the audience. You know, there's always some elements adding up, you know, to the basic recording. For me, that would be the tone.
yeah. It's really well put because people have said tone color is timbre, and I go, "Well, that's a musical term. I mean, in layperson's term." And then some people say it's the instrument you choose to play it on or the environment, like hearing the audience. So, going to the piano, McLuhan says that everything we invent extends some humanness. He says the words human sensorium. So, knife and fork extends our teeth. The shutter in a camera extends our eyelid. even non-tangible like religion or philosophy might extend consciousness. What does the piano extend for you? What humanness?
I mean, it's made of wood, like any other instrument made of wood, of course. Nothing original about this. But the piano is alive when you think about it. It's when it's too cold, it goes out of tune. When it's too hot, it goes out of tune. When it's too much played on, it goes out of tune. When there's not enough people playing on it, it goes out of tune. This instrument needs to be taken care of.
Yeah.
So, like us, I guess.
Yeah. So you're saying it extends aliveness.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. A friend of mine also says the three tenets of music are taste, theory, and technique. Theory, you know what you're doing. Technique, you know how to do it. How does one acquire taste?
You know what? The more I grow up, the more I'm like, taste doesn't really matter. Because like we would say these recordings from the 80s, oh my god, these synths, we would never use them anymore. It's bad taste. Oh. But no, I mean it's just so rich because it's describing a certain era in music, and it's just, I don't think bad and good taste is so pretentious. It's
Yeah.
such a pretentious concept.
Yeah.
I, I don't think I believe in it. I think it's my taste or it's your taste, but nothing is good or bad.
Yeah.
And we are so brainwashed of what good taste is, blah, blah, blah. And this is what I appreciate in this musician community on the West Coast. People are open-minded.
Yeah.
People are going to say, I dig this. And they're not going to question if it's good or bad or should be liked or should be this. No, you like it, you appreciate it. It makes you feel something. Is taste important?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, see, you answered a question with a question, Margaux, you win. Because I say, "What do you acquire taste?" And you go, "Is taste important?" And, that goes to aesthetics. How does taste, and aesthetics are different? Because you've listened, to the history of jazz keyboardists. You can
Yes.
tell, you can say, uh, Art Tatum and, whoever's, the top of the heap. But then you can go, well, and now Domi comes along and it's like I says Domi's like Art Tatum meets Zawinul meets Stevie Wonder, and it's like, then he doesn't like a lot of notes. And I said, watch her play for Flintstones for 1 minute. And then I went and watched it, and I goes, he's going to hate this because she starts off with just ding, 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 a million notes. But then she eventually, within the 1 minute, shows she knows these beautiful chordal things. But I know how people's taste will turn them off. It does to me all the time. I go, okay, I've had 10 seconds of that. I don't need any more.
Mm-hmm.
We let our taste dominate and not give a chance to grow and hear something,
I see what you mean. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it is good to be able to have what we call suspended judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Don't say it's good or bad. Just let it experience it and see how it shapes you. But along in these lines, McLuhan says this a line that I'm curious your thoughts on. Song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference.
Yes, it's true. Um, I have a huge repertoire of French songs. I know a lot of them, and it's such a different world from African American music, or I don't know, south of Spain music. You know, it's just so different because of the language. And a language is going to inspire you to create certain melodies and to go certain places, you know. In operas, you have what? You have like German, Italian, French, and that's pretty much it. And I don't think it's coincidence, you know. It's a certain view on things. It's political as well, you know. Why is it English? Why is it German, Italian, and French for operas? Because these were the rich regions, and these were the people who were able to actually order and commission some German composers to write something, you know. These were the people who actually were able to afford it, you know, because it's such a huge thing to put in together, like an opera. It's crazy. So it can be political as well. So that's interesting. But yeah,
Well, I
you know,
think you're one of the only people who have ever really been able to decipher that quote, because it sounds a little elitist, because we usually go into this realm, like I would say your thing about opera being those 3 countries, and rock and roll is mainly in English. I know it's sung in other words, but it originated more so in English, and that's the dominant.
yes,
You go to Japan and these kids are singing 50s rock and roll in English, and
in English.
they're singing it like they're in English. But I see, because the dilemma there is sometimes is like I listen to the tuba throat singers, and they're from Russia, and I get it's transcendental for me, but that when you hear what they're singing about is their boots, snow, and horses. That's all the lyrics are about. But doesn't matter. T.S. Eliot said poetry can communicate before it's understood. So a lot of that, like romantic French music, can communicate to me romanticism, but
Yes,
I don't know what the words are. I'm not translating the words. So it has a feeling. That's how bossa nova got over on America. It sounded so
indeed.
romantic. Yeah.
Indeed, Jerry, it's so interesting what you're bringing up now, because on my most recent album that's going to be out in November, there's English, but then there's also Serbian and Greek, because the singers, I wanted them to sing in their first mother tongue,
Yeah.
and it's such a special emotion for me to hear them sing in their first language. And the sounds, let's talk about the sounds of a language. It's also about the sounds.
Yeah.
French is going to sound something, and English is going to sound different, and Greek is going to convey something super different because of the sounds of the tongue and the position of the tongue, you know. So it's not only political or historical, it's also sonic, you know. It just
Sonic.
sounds
Yeah.
different, you know.
Yeah.
So it's going to bring up different ideas.
Yeah. That's so important. And talk about the space between notes. Miles Davis talks about it, or in funk, Bootsy Collins and George Clinton say the funk is the absence of.
I love it.
This is dynamics. You know about dynamics, but how do you navigate that? How do you have a sense of when not to play? How do you navigate this need to have space between notes?
I think as a player, I am paying a lot of attention to this matter, silence. When you go to a jam session, on when you where you do a new session with new musicians, or, you know, whatever situation you are in, I try to listen, and I try to give space, to make space, and to give others the opportunity to work with that space. I think not everybody, a lot of people play too much
Yeah.
and too often, and then there's no space for letting other express themselves. And for me, that's really the yeah, it's very important for me actually not to play too much. Sometimes I just don't play, but I'm on stage and I let the guitar player do his thing or her thing, and I'm like, it sounds great. Do I need to add keys on this? No.
Yeah.
You have to have the humility to accept that you don't have much to add, and it's okay.
Yeah. Humility is
Humility.
a key word there. That's a key word because as musicians are egotists and they want to show off how many notes they all want to be Ingve playing Paganini, like,
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
hey, slow down. Because the Thelonious Monk said, silence is the loudest sound in the universe.
I love it. And talking about the audience one more time, do you think they're gonna comprehend and access
Yeah,
the not really. If it's organized, like Zappa could do it
yeah,
in a super clever way,
yeah.
yes. But if it's in a context of like jamming and playing together and everybody's doing I'm not so sure, you
Right.
know?
Because Monk said there are no wrong notes. Any comment?
I agree. I
All
agree.
right, that's
I
my
agree.
my friend said that Monk heard all the notes that Charlie Parker heard, but only the Scott he decided only to play some of them.
I think it's beautiful said. It's beautifully
Yeah.
said.
So there's a guy, um, Ben Ratliff. He says an interesting thing, and I'm curious your thoughts. He says, I mean sound as it has long functioned among jazz players as a mystical term of art, as in every musician finally needs a sound, a full and sensible embodiment of their artistic personality, such that it can be heard at best in a single note. So, like, we can hear Miles practically
Yes.
one note, and he would say fragile and pointed. So I'm after two adjectives. Coleman Hawkins, mellow, generous. Coltrane, slightly undercooked and urgent. If a music writer you respected was going to say Margaux's sound is in these two adjectives, what two words would you like to hear them say, like to have that writer say about your sound?
Wow. That's such a hard question, but I'm going to think about it because what I'm going to answer something modest,
Yeah,
humble, or am I going to say something that I want
yeah,
to hear, or am I going to say something that I think my music is about? Three different possibilities already.
yes.
So I'd like to hear um, just a reminder of fond memories,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
That would be
Mem
great.
yeah, like memorable in your own. Because I realize that this question is not worded right because I'm putting people on a spot to do PR for themselves. And everybody goes, "Generous." No, generous is nice or committed. They've been saying committed. Yeah, well, everybody wants their sound to be committed. And then the music writer writes. So I'm still struggling with the question on this, but one guy kind of nailed it. He said, well, someone came up to me once, he's a sax player, and he goes, your sound is rusty. It sounds like rust. And I went, well, that's a cool adjective because what does rust sound like? Well, it's sort of old and brown and.
It's
So
nice.
yeah, so anyways, you got the question. We don't have to ponder on anymore because I mean anybody who hears your music is going to go, "Wow, I like that." It's beautiful.
Or not, and it's
Yeah,
okay.
or not, and it's okay. Exactly. That is the important thing because once the artist makes their art, it's no longer theirs. The user or the viewer can do whatever they want with it. Yeah. So, what's more important, conviction or compromise?
In what context, Jerry? Music or married life?
Yeah, that's all the two M's, music and marriage. Yeah, yeah. We got to give a shout out to your husband Lior because he's the one who introduced us. So
And he says hello, by the way.
beautiful. So yeah, I always say you put it into the context you want. So since you
Okay.
brought up those two, you could say them both or whatever context you want. Yeah,
I, you know, oh my God, it's such a hard question. It's such a hard question because conviction sounds a little bit selfish,
yeah,
and compromise sounds selfless.
yes,
So um, I'd say conviction because otherwise I wouldn't be where I am.
yeah,
Compromise didn't. I mean, I don't know. Conviction brought me to the place I am more than compromise, for sure.
yeah. And so you've accomplished a lot. In your accomplishments, how do you rate these three elements? Luck, skill, and ambition. What would you say played the first, second, and third in your accomplishments?
We have to add more words to the list.
Please, I get that. Go ahead, add
We
some.
have to add persistence,
Good.
perseverance, willingness, faith.
Yeah,
These are already four good words.
yeah,
And I'd say willingness comes first. I can quit music tomorrow. I really can. Um, so willingness comes first. And environment. You can add environment in your list.
yes,
My parents are huge supporters, and my sister too. And my friends and my mentors. I have a very strong connection to my jazz, piano, and composition teacher. We're friends since 2009. He flew to New York to be my advisor on my first record. We have such a strong musical and personal relationship.
yeah,
And so the environment might comes first with willingness and persistence.
yeah,
We have this famous Belgian singer-songwriter, Jacques Brel.
yes,
He said there's no talent. There's the talent of wanting it to make it happen.
yeah,
And I couldn't agree more. It's such a clever way to put things into, like, my talent is to want it so bad and to put everything together to make it happen. This is the
yeah,
talent.
yeah,
I think it's a fresh view on what talent is. I think it's interesting.
yeah. I need that quote. That is an amazing quote. Jacques Brel is a big influence on lots of us. Bob Dylan, a lot of people. We don't realize how important he is. And it probably doesn't matter. He's just like, I did all this, great, because I just want to make it happen. That's this the greatest guitar tech in the world. I says, the 5 W words, why, when, what, when, and who, which is the most important W word. Everybody says why. He says when. It's when, that's like that to me. Make it happen. When, what's your to tell you about. Okay. So two of my film heroes say, one says his mantra is ignore yourself. Jonas Mekas says there is no self-expression. And Cecil Taylor, great jazz pianist, says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff comes through me. So it's sort of a stupid question because it's both, and I know it depends. But your hunch, is art making, is music making more self expression or more you're a vehicle for whatever culture, technologies, or environments are dominant?
I think it's the second one, because um, as someone from Europe, for example, North American music had such a huge influence on my life and North American culture. So I'm the result of these influences, and it's just gonna direct me and guide me to how I write music, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure, you know?
Margaux, can music making be egoless?
No, unless you gather your street and you do a choir with all the neighbors, then you might be in some selfless experience,
Yeah.
egoless.
I love that neighborhood music making. So what do you think the motive of the cave artists was, or the cave musicians? Not what anthropologists necessarily said, or just your hunch.
To do sounds, like there is sounds in the air, there is sounds in the nature, but what sounds can we do with our bodies?
Yeah,
I guess
it's good. Is perception reality?
it's yours, but not mine.
Yeah. Lewis Carroll said, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Yes, I live here. Sounds pretty impossible, but I made it happen. It's a very complicated journey. It requires a lot of elements.
Beautiful. You use the word that's in the next question. You must have ESP. Tell me one element of your composing music that stayed the same and one major element that's changed.
One major element that stayed the same is sense of community. I know that people who connect to my songs want to sing them alone, and it brings them a sense of community. So I guess sense of community. I'm someone who, like, I love to gather like 20 people together, and I love big projects, and it's part of the way I write. So I would say community hasn't changed, sense of community. um, and then something that has changed is that I'm going towards the audience more and more, I think, aesthetically speaking. I'm getting out of the jazz world, which might be difficult to access to some people, because I know you need keys to access this world. And I try to make it more affordable, accessible, comprehensible.
Yeah, beautiful. Ruth Draper, a pioneer in one whim performance art, actually, theater. She said about the audience, the key is to bring the audience up onto the stage and into the scene with you. It is they who must give you even more than you give them in the way of imagination and creative power. That sounds good, but how do you accomplish that?
This is why I like to make the audience sing. And a lot of artists are doing it, right? You see that, like, pop act, and like they're gonna make the audience sing, and everybody
Yeah,
wants to, at the end of the day, it's like this huge communion of people. It's mystical.
yeah,
It's spiritual.
yeah,
It's it's very human. It's beautiful. People want to experience this. People want to be in stadiums with 60,000 other human beings singing the same song. They want to experience some kind of mystical thing.
Yeah.
And I love that. I appreciate that. It connects us to a higher level.
Yeah.
So how can the audience gives us more than we give them? I don't know. I guess that's a very difficult question. I have the feeling that we owe them so much. We play for them,
Yeah.
you know?
That's like
I don't have an answer.
that's like John Cage would say, "That's a very good question. I wouldn't want to ruin it with an answer." But I love the word mystical is it because I've been it's a couple um, sessions with this guy, John Capek, who's written songs for Rod Stewart and on latest Bonnie Raitt. And I mean, he's just a normal guy. He gets up and he looks at his keyboard and goes, "Well, what can I do today?" And it's, and he calls it anthemic. And
Yes.
that's the first I told Leora, I says, I want to write a anthem funk song, like we love rock and roll, like Joan Jett, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
something
yeah,
that
yeah.
the whole audience, or say Alice Cooper, "School's out forever," like the simplest lyrics in the world where everybody can chant. And P Funk does it so well. And I says, it's not that hard, is it? But it's this idea of anthem rock or anthemic. And that's why singing in a cocktail party in the kitchen with a bunch of people, American musicals, or the Great American Songbook is like the epitome. You just sit there and sing the songs everybody knows.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's the ultimate goal for me.
yeah.
Definitely.
Um, we got about 20 more minutes. This has been so fun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Uh,
Jerry.
yeah. Anger can be a productive emotion when fill in the blank.
Anger can be a productive emotion when dealt with. You deal
Yeah,
with it.
yeah. Deal with it.
When you like, you remember we talked about emotions, sadness or anger, and you just learn through to navigate through them. um anger anger I'm not someone angry. I cannot really connect to this. I don't
Yeah.
think I'm someone angry. I'm not really angry. I don't have this anger, you know.
Right. What's the function of laughter?
Release.
Yeah. Gurdjieff says laughter is the reconciliation of yes and no.
Maybe.
So, yeah, so it's like this. Your opinion on this line, and I'm not saying you, but it goes, you create what you resist, or one creates what one resists. Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, morphed it into you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve.
Hmm.
And Louis Buñuel said, thank God I'm an atheist. So it's this paradox, like you create what you resist, or one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that thought?
I think I create what I embrace.
Yeah.
So maybe I disagree with you create what you resist.
Yeah.
um you you know, like in this like particular let's call it non-commercial, because you know the length of the songs, sometimes it's 8 or 9 minutes and there's a lot of improv and it's creative music and it's another form. It's not a 3 minute song on the radio. um Sometimes people come to me and like, hey, why don't you do this to advance your career and to like be more blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you go the opposite? And I'm like, I'm navigating through this very bizarre journey of like writing music and evolving and like I said, I'm moving towards the audience. This is my goal. But at the same time, if you create what you embrace, you're being true to yourself, and
Yeah.
and just listen to your heart. I mean, great artists that we love and that we love to listen to, there is a sense of authenticity and honesty, and of course they did some compromise in certain ways, I'm sure. Again, let's not be naive, but be true to yourself, follow your journey. And what was the question?
No, 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 let's move on, because you really you captured it well, because you evoked the two of my heroes. One says, "Don't sell out, sneak in."
Yes, you know,
And the other one is, "The role of the artist is to attempt to sell out but fail."
I love
Oh,
that.
I already tried to sell out, but I failed, so I'm gonna stick to my guns. But, there's so you like Godard, who just died. I've been studying him recently. The guy never sold out for 90 years. He just never, and he got, oh, he's a grumpy old blah, 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 blah. But there are some people who can do that, but everybody knows. Zappa even said, he says, "I write music for myself, and if other people like it, great." It's like, well, that's romanticizing it, because if you hit this note and say these words, kids are going to buy your music, then you'll go make some more music. So it
Hmm.
doesn't, so it's a funny thing. So, how do you find peace of mind?
Peace of mind. If I don't have to think about it, I guess I have some.
That is a great, I've never had that answer. These are 5 Alan Watts questions just off the top of your head in a couple words. 1, who started it all?
Molecules.
What is
Cells. Cells.
Oh, cells, molecules, beautiful. Are are we going to make it?
Yes. No, but the Earth, yes. The
Nice.
planet, yeah.
Yes. Where do we put it?
The furthest possible.
Who's cleaning it up?
Working class.
Amazing. Is it serious?
No.
Beautiful. That was great. Couple more and we're out of here, Margaux. What a pleasure. Can you forget to die?
No. Maybe you can when you perform on stage, when you listen to music, when you watch a great movie. All these little illusions.
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, no, not really.
Yeah. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
I would say it's gonna be so surprising. You have no idea. Enjoy the process.
Beautiful. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
Over.
Why?
Because this is the way I put it and I don't question it.
You know that 95% people say over?
Really?
Yeah, in the
Nice.
in the patent has it going over, but the people who say under have reasons. They say
Wow.
Let's go back to music again. Tell me an instrumental that makes you laugh.
Instrumental song?
Yeah, well, an instrumental song, like, you can't say like Spike Jones, because most of his songs have vocals. But I mean, it's just an instrumental song that makes you laugh. So it's sort of ironic. How can a instrumental make someone laugh if there's no words involved?
I'd say no. I don't think there is. I need the lyrics.
You need the lyrics to make you
Yes.
laugh. Very good. I haven't had that answer since I started asking it. That's a good answer. What's more fundamental, music or language?
Language.
And suss that out. Why would you say that?
Because not everybody has access to music, but most of people have access to language. And I mean, people who cannot speak because of disabilities, they're still going to have the signed language. Um, and people who are not able to see, they're going to be able to read with their hands. So I would say language is more important because it allows us to communicate on a bigger scale than music. Not everybody has access to music as musicians, or not everybody can sing.
Yeah.
Everybody can enjoy listening, but listening is passive. Talking is active.
Yeah.
According to me, everybody
That
can have a different opinion.
right. Well, no, that's what we're after is the comprehensiveness awareness is when you recognize patterns.
Mhm.
And I think that's what you're good at. You recognize patterns. That's why you're such a great composer. You say, okay, here's the history of all the patterns that's happened before me. How am I going to do something different that's solely Margaux, you know? So, this is Anthony Burgess, he's wrote Clockwork Orange, but he actually he was a musician and a composer, and he wrote a book on music. And he said, we must now ask some very different questions about the relationship between music and life. What what questions remain unresolved for you in regards to music and in regards to life?
In regards to music, the question unanswered is how people do to get their things listened by millions of people. This remains a mystery.
How do they get their music listened
By
to?
millions of
Yeah.
people. And second, because you see all these documentaries, they were a small band playing in a garage in Seattle, and then we are, once again, we are like, there's a huge we are romanticizing these versions of like success.
Yeah.
And I think people who wanted to have success were very clear about their goal from the beginning, and it was beyond making music. I'm going a little bit away from the question. So the question unresolved in music is the question I am in right now as we speak as a freelance musician,
Yeah.
of oh my god, how can we make it a sustainable thing to make a living out of it, because it's
Yeah.
important to talk about that. As musicians, it's great to make art, but the reality of the job is just very, 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 very hard.
Yeah.
um, Again, it's a luxury to be able to choose this career and to embrace this path. White person from Europe, I have all the privileges and I'm very aware of that. But still, it's difficult to make it something sustainable. And a question unresolved regarding life, death.
Yeah. Well, you sure are articulate. I really love your sensibility, Margaux. Um,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
if a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
The first ever Belgian female composer who conquered Hollywood.
Woohoo! I know the publisher would go, too long. Forget it. That could be the title. Okay, now here's the doozy follow-up. Margaux, they want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell would it be?
The smell of the glue?
Yeah.
Almond.
Oh, nice. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
It would be made of bronze and it would be in my hometown.
Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Hard drugs.
That's, the answer I get the most? Fame, money, and heroin. That's amazing.
I love that. You see, everybody, no one is original. We're so predictable.
No, I've had some funny questions. Okay, here's a doozy. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Try to get out of it, and if not possible, embrace it. There's nothing to do.
Wow. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
Activism is was activism is taking a new form on social media, and I love it. I love that people can connect together through social media, and I think we can build something very strong as human beings. So this new form of activism and, like, reaching out to young people in such an easy way is wonderful.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So, a couple artists I really look up to, Joseph Beuys said, make the secrets productive. Lou Welsh said, guard the secrets, constantly reveal them. But it was Thornton Wilder in 1928. He said, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you, Margaux?
Having fun.
Oh, that's my favorite answer. Isn't that really what life's all about, is having fun? Why do humans take life too serious? Because, when I asked you, is it serious? You said no. And I was like, that I agree with that. But why do you think we do take life too seriously?
Um, because we, like I said, evolve right now in such a horrible environment for everybody. Everybody's struggling, so there is not a lot of reasons to laugh and have joy and have fun. It's a very difficult time. So I
Yeah.
guess it's but that's my mom's motto. Once again, my mother, she's like, we're not here to, I mean, in French, I try to translate from French, we're not here to have a hard time. We're not here to have a hard time. So whenever someone was awful to us, on whenever we were developing
Yeah.
some toxic relationships, she would be like, no, 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 don't spend your energy there. We're here to have fun. She loves
Yeah.
to have fun. She's such an amazing person, and we have so much fun. We laugh, we travel, we she's, I love her view on things.
Where'd she get it from? Her mom or on her own? Where do you think it is, in her DNA, or how did she learn that?
It's in herself. It's definitely not from her parents. It's
Yeah.
her own. She's very, 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 very smart. um yeah, so I'm very lucky.
Yeah. Well, that says she did a really good job raising you, because she carries on this thing to have fun. It's an amazing attitude. So the last question is, and I hope this can carry on forever and ever. Um, what gives you the most optimism?
My husband.
Oh, is that the right answer? What? Mine is hugging my wife. So that is like your husband gives you optimism. Well, I know that guy, and he is pretty cool.
Yes, he's amazing. He is such a believer, so this is why we get along.
How many years you been together?
4.5 almost.
And how do you explain your longevity?
Being very, very different. And again, the willingness to make it happen. We are so different, it's insane. And I know it's the same for every person who goes through a relationship.
Yeah,
People are different. There's
yeah,
no way we're going to agree on things easily. I mean, some of the things, of course, but not everything.
yeah.
um we're still a young couple. We Let's talk in 10 years. There's going to be new challenges.
Hey, Margaux, my thing used to be I'll interview people every 10 years. There's a couple people, but this one guy came to me and he says, I want you to interview me again. And I goes, well, I usually do it every 10 years. He goes, no, do it now. So I like that pattern every 10. But Margaux, I'm going to hit the end broadcast button. But again, I hope this never ends, that we'll continue the discussion and keep on sharing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today. It's
Thank
really
you for inviting me, Jerry. This was such a fun interview. Thank you so much.
so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Fun is the key word.
Thank you.